All right, YouTubers, welcome back to my studio. This is Jose Trujillo. I'm probably the world's best artist. The world doesn't know it yet. I'm going to be painting a landscape scene on a small canvas board. It's going to be an 11 by 14 inches canvas board, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to do this vertical paintings. So let's get to it. Let's do this. First things first. Let's take some coffee. Oh man. Sorry for you guys who don't enjoy coffee or who don't drink it, because it is definitely a gift from the gods. All right, just like tequila. Tequila is a gift from the gods. But the gods got pissed off at me after a while of drinking tequila, so stay away from it for the most part. All right, here we go. So in the last video, I was talking to you about how to stay away from stalkers. Don't put your, if you haven't seen my other videos before this one, check it out. I highly recommend it if you are any type of artist, whether you're a photographer or a painter, especially if you're a painter, sculptor, any type of photographer. Go check it out. You're gonna enjoy it. But I'll resume here, or I'll continue, I guess. I was trying to talk about how stoppers are so prevalent in the arts and in anything. I mean, anything you do in life, you have all these stoppers. The terrain seems to be difficult, but it's difficult because people make it that way. It's not really that difficult. It's somewhat difficult. You have to create videos like this, or you have to go exhibit, or anything that you have to do in order to show your work or to show yourself, your process, whatever you're doing. But in the other video, what I was talking about is that artists back in the day fought so hard to not just be represented. Today artists are like, oh man, I wish a gallery would represent me, boo-hoo, But back in the day, they weren't really so much worried so much about that. I don't think so, based on what I've understood about what happened, how people dealt with it. The thing was more expression. Can I express my craft? Because you weren't even allowed to fully express yourself. That's you weren't even allowed to fully express yourself. So I think ultimately that was the challenge. You are a painter that learned how to create paintings in a certain school. And that's how you had to paint if you wanted to have any type of success in the art market, in the art world, back in that time. And people still talk about that, still talk like that, and it baffles me. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you really think that you have to do things a certain way? Then you've been influenced by a lot of people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. You don't have to paint a certain way. You don't have to know the proper way of painting. You have to be an artist. An artist goes beyond that. And a lot of people are even stopping artists because, and I'm not saying like physically, I mean ultimately yes, even physically, but not like that. A lot of people are saying, this has always happened, but what baffles me is that it continues to happen in spite of that didn't need to happen anymore. We don't need to carry that. And let me see, before I confuse you more with what I'm trying to say, what I meant by a lot of people try to stop you is that people tend to say you can't paint unless you know the proper way of painting, you know. And back in the day, the proper way of painting was a type of school of art. You know, you were either a romantic, or you were a realist, or you were, you know, any of those styles, whatever style was happening during that time, you know. You either practice realism or neoclassicism or any ism, romanticism. And then the Impressionists came along and they're like, oh, hell no, you know. We're not going to practice your ism, even though they had to find an ism too, you know. Or someone found it for them. But that's what people do. They impose these laws, you know. You're not going to be exhibited here. That's what used to happen, unless you paint realism. And you have to paint it how, you know, like in France, how Napoleon, how the government agrees that it has to look like. Otherwise, you're not going to come into the studio and you don't have a chance of making a career in art, showing your work, right? So there were a couple of places that could show your art, or where people went to see art, and that was it. I think they still exist, but those won't make you or break you. And what I said in my last video is, guys, come on, we don't have that anymore, you know? You don't have to put stoppers anymore. We don't have the salon, you know, in France, saying you cannot exhibit here, you know. We don't have that anymore. Now we have, shit, man, we have Etsy, you know. We have eBay. We have, I don't know, like 1,000 websites and online galleries. And, you know, sure, you can easily get lost in the sea of content if you're not persistent. And if you're not strong enough, you'll get lost in there. But the plus thing of that is that you don't have to wait for someone to say, come, I want to show you your work. You don't have to wait for someone to do that, you know. Where before, you couldn't even show your work. I mean, people weren't worried whether you knew how to paint or not. People were worried whether they could express themselves, fully express themselves. I feel like it was like marriage was probably like that, you know. I don't think, sadly, you know, what happened back in the day, women weren't, I don't think they were so much worried about finding a spouse or not, a husband, because of how society, sadly, was created, you know, to be this, for the benefit of men for the most part. I don't think women, that was their deal. Their deal wasn't like, oh, am I going to find a man or not? I think their deal was, am I going to have true love, or am I just going to marry someone to move up in mobility, you know, for a higher mobility, you know? And I think that art was the same way. It wasn't. I don't think artists were like, oh, am I going to be any good? They knew they were going to be good. All they had to do was go to this school, copy the work, and paint like that, and be aggressive, and boom. But that's not what artists were looking for, only. Artists were also looking to see if they were going to be able to express themselves fully, because ultimately that's what art is. You know, it wasn't about just painting pictures. It was about full expression of the artist. And take it beyond being a functional activity or utilitarian, no? That it's something that people did. They you know, a craftsman hung paintings and they look nice and thank you very much. But art is not that, and we've learned that art is not that. Just like marriage back in the day was supposed to be to ensure a good place in society for many women. If you marry someone, you know, of means or nobility or whatever, art was very similar. You have to be able to paint a certain way in order to be accepted. We don't have that anymore. That doesn't exist. And if it does, it's still, you know, it does by some crazy people in small pockets of the world. And sure, they can have fun with that. They can play with that. You know, who cares? But for the majority of us, we don't need that anymore. You know, the market is open. Just like women can marry for love and not being, you know, having this miserable life, living with someone who can provide but not love them, you know. I mean, ultimately, the good thing would be having both, right? Someone who can provide and someone you love. I think that would be the ultimate goal. So with art, you know, you want to be accepted in a fine gallery, but you also want to be able to express yourself fully, because that's the whole point of art. Just like that's the whole point of a relationship, a partnership. You want to be able to love that person, of course. But we don't have that problem anymore, and that's what I'm trying to talk about. And this is about the third video that I talk about that. But I want to make it clear, because I might even send it to the next video. Who knows? I'm sorry. You're in my blog, so if you don't like it, I'm sorry about that. I'm not really here to teach art. I'm here to share what I'm going through as an artist and my experiences and my process. But that's the thing, right? You don't have to depend on anyone, and we still act like we do. We don't have to depend on anyone for our salvation as artists. You don't have to wait for that big museum. You don't have to wait for that person to say, "Oh yes, your work is good enough. You know, go and be fruitful, multiply." No, you don't have to wait for anyone. And if someone's telling you that, please look into it, because the person might be extremely confused, or they might be trying to help you because they see something that maybe you don't. But either way, look into it so that you, if it's a stopper, most likely you can remove that and propel your experience as an artist in your career or business. I'll leave you with that. Till next time.